40 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. And I've got to tell you, if you're not checking us out on Facebook, you're making a mistake. I give little sneak previews of the shows now. How about that? You want to know what's happening on the show before the show, before anybody else gets to know, check us out on Facebook. Plus, we get to have little extra discussions on Facebook that we may not necessarily get to have on the air because I only have an hour here. But the internet is 24/7. That's Hot News Talk Radio on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Check us out. Also, make sure to hit us up in the TuneIn Radio app. That's free in your favorite app store, whether you have Apple or Android. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio in the app. Give us a favorite. Press play. In fact, I don't even think you have to press play. I think it'll just play automatically. Either way, give us a favorite. And you'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. That's Hot News Talk Radio and TuneIn Radio. Listen like you mean it. And, of course, check us out on our website, hotnewstalkradio.com or Noogaradio.com. So, had a couple of stories go down yesterday and the day before. Les Miles was fired on Sunday. And I did not talk about this yesterday, due in large part to the fact that it was mostly unconfirmed reports. I don't want to start my shows with a rumor. I hate rumors. I do not like them. If you start with a rumor and it turns out to be wrong, then you have to do all of this wonderful backtracking about how you went with some source that was not confirmed. So I didn't want to jump on top of a rumor that was not confirmed. Les Miles has been confirmed as being fired. And so now I will jump to Les Miles being fired, why it is that happened. Because it's not hard to figure out why it is that Les Miles got fired. Anytime someone gets fired or anytime something closes down, your favorite restaurant's going out of business, you want to know why, it's never just one factor. Right? Like you can even go to history. Look at the fall of Rome. It's never just one factor that brings anything down. It's always a multiple of factors, a confluence of factors that come together and bring something down. And it is no different for Les Miles. Les Miles had a number of things working against him. And some of them were his fault. Some of them aren't his fault. Like the thing that's working against him that is his fault is Les Miles is stubborn. He is stubborn. I've been told that I'm stubborn. You want to do something makes sense to do. You have a hard time convincing me not to do it. You need to explain to me why it is that I am wrong, and you need to explain it in a way that actually proves that I am wrong. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time convincing me not to do something. I am, in fact, a very stubborn person. I don't know if that's something to be proud of, but it's just a fact about me. I am stubborn. Les Miles, stubborn, more stubborn than I am, because everyone has been getting on Les Miles about this offense forever. And I didn't really touch on it last year because I thought Les Miles could get it done the way he has been doing it. And you see the defenses that he puts up there, and you're like, there's no way that a defense like this, if they couldn't just get a quarterback and they couldn't just get a great running back that they always needed, could not compete for a national title. So I personally was not one to get on Les Miles for his offense going back to last year because it looked like Brandon Harris could be the quarterback. Leonard Fournette was the running back. And that defense is amazing. I mean, it's a very well put together defense. The issue with what Les has done there with his offense and not being able to get it to score points, not being creative in all of the play calls, is that no matter how good your defense is, if you're not putting up points, it looks bad. When other teams are able to average around 20, 24 points a game, even Tennessee, when Tennessee wasn't playing well, even when you look back at, Appy State, like Tennessee is like, sure, it took an overtime, but you get to 20. You break 20 in games. Like LSU's not breaking 20 in games that they ought to be putting people away in. And they're not giving themselves a chance to beat schools like Alabama. Like, how many times have you watched LSU play Alabama and the score is 6-3, 9-3, and you lose to Alabama like 6-3, well, 2 more field goals could have won it for you. Like if your offense was just that much better. And they brought in Cam Cameron to come in and change up the offense, and it didn't change. Maybe it's just me, but I'm not going to lie. Cam Cameron was brought in to change up the offense, and I didn't notice that Cam Cameron was there. The offense looked the same. Not a thing about it changed. Not at all, at all. Nothing changed about the offense. And Cam Cameron, look, I believe that Cam Cameron is the offensive genius and guru that he is oftentimes made out to be? No, I don't think that at all. But I mean, just from what I've seen about Cam Cameron's offense is that they can be a little crazy. But Cam Cameron is a guy that likes to throw the ball down the field. He likes to have 4 or 5 wide receiver sets. We didn't see any of that at LSU. We didn't see it. You saw a play every now and then that you're like, oh, okay, a guy who is good at coaching offenses here. That one play in the Wisconsin game comes to mind when Leonard Fournette ended up catching a pass, I believe 30, 40 yards downfield, which he was basically uncovered for because who would expect Leonard Fournette to do that? That's a little bit of creativity, but ultimately there was nothing close to enough there. And that was something that was working against Les Miles. His offenses are boring, simple, like easy to figure out, basically easy to scheme and game plan against offenses. And then on top of that, despite the fact that everybody kept telling him and criticizing him for this, Les Miles would not change up his offense at all. And that's his fault. That and the fact that he was not developing talent, really. Like, to me, Brandon Harris should have been a better quarterback than he was. And you want to blame Brandon Harris, but I'm starting to look at stuff differently. Like, people have asked the question, and it's a valid question. How good is Tom Brady, if he doesn't wind up with Belichick? Isn't that something you have to wonder? Tom Brady would still be a great quarterback, but does Tom Brady reach Joe Montana status without Belichick? Does he get to the 6 Super Bowls? Does he have the 4 rings without Belichick? This is like a reverse situation. How much better could Brandon Harris have been if he wasn't at LSU? Because Brandon Harris was recruited by other schools. It's not like Brandon Harris was some guy that they scraped from the bottom of the bargain bin. How much better could Brandon Harris have become if he did not go to LSU? You have to wonder this because it ended up, in the benching of Brandon Harris trying to save your job. And this is a guy that should have been good enough just on talent, the talent based on paper, the speed of Brandon Harris, the arm strength of Brandon Harris. Okay, that he's got all of the physical qualities that you'd want in a collegiate athlete at the quarterback position, and he was not able to get it done. How much of that do you blame on the guy being coached? And how much of that do you blame on the coach? I think you've got to blame a fair amount on the coach when you look at that coach's offense. When you look at that coach's offense, there was not a whole lot of room for Brandon Harris to thrive. There was not a whole lot of playing to his skill set, that the guy's pretty quick. Okay? The fastest quarterback that I've seen in game in college, still Robert Griffin III, to me. Still Robert Griffin III. But that being said, Brandon Harris is a pretty quick dude. He's definitely up there with one of the faster quarterbacks in college football, and it didn't matter because we never got that skill set to be used. It never got opened up for him. So you want to talk about Brandon Harris and his decision-making and all of that other stuff, but how good could he have been given the offense that he was basically pigeonholed into playing? Because it was a bizarrely weak offense. Even with having Leonard Fournette to turn around and give the ball to. Right? Like that ultimately, to me, is the kicker. You've got this guy that's heavily recruited coming out of high school, and the offense can't do anything with him. And then you've got Leonard Fournette, who basically can't go anywhere because teams are just going to bring 8, 9 guys in the box to stop Leonard Fournette because why not? You know they're not going to throw the ball. You're listening to Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. That's the reason why Les Miles got fired. Another reason why Les Miles got fired, which is less his fault, is he coaches in the SEC. He coaches in the SEC. And 8 and 10 wins a year, 8, 9, 10 wins a year, not enough. Like if you have teams that people consider to be talented enough to go get you a natty, to go get you a national title, people aren't going to take 10 wins. That's why Kirby Smart is in Georgia. Because I think we can all agree Mark Richt is a fantastic coach, but 10 wins a year, you're Georgia looking around at everybody else like, why don't we get in the playoff? Why don't we get national title shots? If we're good enough to win 10 every year, what's stopping us from getting 11? Really? What's stopping us from getting 12? Like people are looking around going, what? Why can't we win more than 10 games a year? 9 to 10 games a year. In the SEC, the pressure is higher to do that than anybody. And granted, how it is that Les Miles found himself at 2-2 is remarkable because of the way that game ended, where you had the LSU thought that they won, but then it turns out that they didn't get the playoff in time upon further review. So the touchdown was taken away, and then Auburn ended up winning. Like, it was really, if you look at it, like the Doo-Doo Bowl, that game. You had two coaches who were on the hot seat with two teams that are grossly underachieving, according to the critics of those teams. And one of them ended up losing in a way that was completely garbage. Because like Les Miles and LSU win that game, somehow managed to pull out the victory there, where you could argue that they technically already did. Then you have LSU keeping Les Miles on board. And what's the difference between LSU winning in a way like that to them just flat out losing? Like LSU is playing these games, and I'm going to go with the early Tennessee games, with the Georgia Nichols game, and just lump some of those games in where you win, but it really feels like losing. It really, really, really just feels like another L. I don't know why. It just does. Now, you're Tennessee. You beat Florida. All those other wins that look bad suddenly get a little bit more legitimized in your eyes. Like, oh no, but they can score whenever they want to. Okay, that's fine. I hear that. But you're LSU and you lose that game. All the other two wins that really don't stand out in your mind, that only adds to what makes everything feel so bad about LSU right now. And Les Miles being in the SEC, you don't get to stink for very long in the SEC. Like, you don't get to stick around at Vanderbilt, even if it's Vanderbilt. What more can Derek Mason do? What more can he do? It's Vanderbilt. You get beat up by the Tennessees and the Georgias and everybody else that comes through Nashville. What else is Derek Mason supposed to do? But even at Vanderbilt, people aren't going to just sit down and take losing. Where Vanderbilt is a school that if Vanderbilt was able to get 9 wins a year, I think that fan base would be happy. I think that fan base would be like the one SEC fan base satisfied with, can we get 9 a year? Like, are you really guaranteeing us that? Because everybody else is out here trying to win a natty. That's why Mark Richt is gone, and that's why now Les Miles is gone. And by the way, Gus Malzahn, because of the way in which Auburn ended up winning that game, you can't fire Gus Malzahn now. But my friend, your seat is still quite toasty. Your seat is still warm. And I don't think that you should overlook the fact that we could lose Gus this season too. Now you got to buy out Gus's contract, but LSU already had the money ready to go to take out Les. They were just waiting for Les to lose 2 games. It didn't matter if Les lost to Auburn last night or to Bama later in the season. They were waiting for Les to lose 2. And actually, if he had lost to Bama, that would have been better. That would have been better because Wisconsin's turning out to not be that bad of a loss based on where they've gone since. And Bama's Bama. If those are your 2 losses, you actually kind of make a case for yourself. But it didn't matter if it happened yet this past weekend or in a future week. LSU had to win more games, and they didn't do it. I mean, they just didn't do it. People are not about to take another 8-9 win season from LSU when you believe this school is good enough to be a 1-loss school. You believe that they're at least good enough to be in the SEC title game or at least compete with Alabama to get there. You think they're good enough to maybe sneak into the college football playoff. And if you think they're good enough to do that, then you think they're good enough to win a natty. And guess what? Les Miles didn't get it done. And I understand it's not his fault that you're looking down the road at Nick Saban just racking up the wins at Alabama. Okay. Tennessee coming away each year. They're improving steadily. You're looking around the SEC and going, there's a lot of schools here that are coming up on 9-10 wins every season. Arkansas, most years, under Bielema. Ole Miss with Hugh Freeze, basically every year that he's been there. All of them. I mean, and so you're LSU and you're out here getting 8 wins. It's not good enough in this league. And when you have something to point to, like Les Miles has something to point to, there are some teams where you're looking at the team and it's not completely obvious off the bat what's wrong. Like Georgia, for instance, there are some things that Georgia needs to fix that Georgia could get better at. I would say Florida too. But you can't point to Georgia or Florida and go, oh, they're not playing as well as they should be because they can't do blank thing. They can't do whatever thing. You could point to LSU and go, oh, yeah, no. They're losing because they can't play offense. They cannot score points. They look like they're playing football in a river of molasses. You could very easily point to LSU in that. And Les Miles has been criticized by that constantly, or for that constantly. And the thing is, you bring in an offensive coordinator to fix all of that when visibly nothing changes. Now we really want to blame you. Like, why wouldn't Cam Cameron be able to instill his offense? Because I don't remember if you've seen Cam Cameron's offense with the Ravens before he got fired from there for basically being offensively ineffective, but mostly because Cam Cameron loves to throw the ball so much that he'd never run it. That's basically why he got fired from Baltimore. You're not seeing all of that from LSU. So the Tigers, there's a lot there to clean up. And we're going to see exactly how it is that goes. But this season is a season that if you're a Tigers fan, you have to be disappointed. And I don't know that anybody is really, really, truly, honestly upset that Les Miles got fired. Like last year, everybody was upset that Les Miles got fired. Like quality coaches are getting fired because Mark Richt got fired around the same time, and you're just like, wow, why are all the good coaches going? But I don't think anyone's mad this time because all of the things that Les Miles has been criticized for, not one thing changed. And if you do not change, if you don't move forward, if you don't progress, you die. Not just in football, in life. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you so much for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate each and every one of you. Stick around. We're going to talk about Jose Fernandez and the Marlins win last night, paying their respects to him, and the passing of Arnold Palmer. Clutch with Keon Rose, next.
News Talk 1240 AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your chance to win $124 in cash and $124 in food every week with the Hot News Talk Radio 1, 2, 3 NASCAR contest. Hot News Talk 1240. All you have to do is guess who's going to be first, second, and third place in the upcoming NASCAR Sprint Cup race. If you guess it, you'll hear your name live Monday morning at 11:30. Then call AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio to win. Enter your guess right now at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, 5301 Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. Diesel Off-Road Technology Saudi Daisy for your four-wheel drive and truck needs. Stuff and upholstery with premium rubber foam. Amigos Mexican Restaurant next to Staples and Hickson. Drink specials during the race. Cell Surgeon, the Broken Screen Doc. And Shooter's Supply, 4824 Hickson Pike in Hickson. Hot News Talk 1240. Enter your guesses now and then listen to the race live to win $124 in cash and $124 in food from Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station. Hot News Talk 1240. I love NASCAR. Shooter Supply, any A-frame, 20% off, 10% off, 5% off, everything in the store's on sale. 5, 10, 20, September sales days. Shooter Supply, handguns, carry permit classes, ammo and gear. You get 5% off of firearms, 10% off of ammo and gear, 20% off of all handgun carry permit classes. Shooter Supply, September sales days. But you gotta get here now. It's ending soon. Shooter Supply, any A-frame. We're on Hickson Pike, right around the corner, right next to the Holiday Inn Express. Shooter Supply and Indoor Range. Shooters-range.com. Order online. Shooters-range.com. September sales days.
Hi, this is Mike at Wholesale Liquidation, Highway 58, next to Taco Bell, featuring over 6,000 square feet of unique and everyday wholesale items, discounted to, get this, 50 to 75% off of retail, from new and pre-owned tools to chainsaws and auto accessories. Wholesale Liquidation, Highway 58, next to Taco Bell.
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Trade Bank. Call now to get access to nearly 400 local businesses. Trade Bank. Call 877-2202. 877-2202. Trade Bank. You want to increase your cash flow, your competitive edge, attract new customers, and build a loyal customer base. You need Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call right now. 877-2202. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, tradebank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want with our wide variety of Trade Bank partners. For almost 30 years, Trade Bank has been your voice for small business, a member of the American Bankers Association, and in good standing with you. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation, 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
This is Mike at For the Record at Northgate Mall. We're the largest complete record store in town. We sell old and new vinyl records, celebrity posters, music posters, and we are the largest in town. Come see us.
Expect mostly clear skies to continue through the nighttime, cooling down overnight, lows 53 to 55. For Wednesday, a beautiful day, lots of sunshine, highs back into the lower 80s. Tomorrow night, some clouds, may see a brief shower, turning even cooler on Thursday with highs into the lower 70s. Check out JCPenney and get an extra 20% off select items with your JCPenney credit card and coupon, or 15% with any other form of payment. That's getting your pennies worth at JCPenney. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. The mayor admitted this morning that he used encrypted messaging app WhatsApp to communicate with members of his staff within the city. This is problematic because if an open records request is filed, those communications cannot be retrieved. 2 boaters on Harrison Bay and their pet have been found dead, apparently from carbon monoxide poisoning. The craft was spotted in a cove near Harrison Island. TWRA says they believe carbon monoxide poisoning is to blame, and the victims probably didn't even know they were dying. DA Neil Pinkston has filed a request which would mark 2 gangs as public nuisances, and it would make it illegal for them to do many things within a designated safe zone. Those items include associating with other gang members, possessing graffiti tools, possessing guns or other dangerous weapons, and even being near alcohol, among other things. They argue this would make it easier for law enforcement to eliminate the gang problem. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Make sure you like us on Facebook, get us on the TuneIn Radio app, and listen to us on Noogaradio.com.
Martin Truex Jr. is off the pace and he is headed to the pit lane. Elliott Powers around the outside. Michael McDowell pops a right front tire. Here's Martin Truex to the bottom. Blaney blocks him off too. Meanwhile, Chase Elliott went 4 wide on the back straightaway. They're side by side for the lead.
Hear it live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240. The voice of NASCAR.
So, media doesn't really make me cry. You know, whenever there are tragedies, actual tragedies, that stuff does get to me. But I'm watching a movie. And movies don't really get to me. I've got 1 or 2 movies that, make you feel fuzzy inside. But mostly movies don't really get to me like that. So here's the thing, though. Sports does. Sports get to me exactly like that. Sports get to me exactly like that. Like when Peyton Manning announced that he was not going to be an Indianapolis Colt any longer after they released him from the team, I choked up a little bit. I remember watching that press conference and choking up a little bit. And then when Peyton retired, I choked up again. Okay, I get it. Sports does this to me in a way that movies and other forms of media designed to pull the tears out of your face, they can't do it. Okay, so this story with Jose Fernandez, I wanted to tune in to the Marlins and Mets game because I heard there was going to be a tribute and everything else, and I can't tune into the game because I know exactly what that kind of stuff does to me. Like, I couldn't tune into it. I wanted to, but I just really couldn't bring myself to do it because I'm like, I'm not trying to be a grown man crying watching baseball. I haven't cried watching baseball. I told you, I grew up a Yankees fan. And when the Red Sox came back in 2004 on the Yankees, I cried. I cried my face off. Nothing has made me cry harder than that. That is the most emotional I have ever been in my whole life. So yeah, when you mix sports, which has the ability to really do that to me, and actual tragedy, no, I can't do it. Not actually about to do that to myself and make myself look like just a giant sobbing, weeping man. And then on top of that, look like, what, are you watching a romantic comedy? No, I'm just watching some baseball. And I'm watching the Marlins and the Mets. 2 teams that I would not typically watch. Like if you told me the Marlins and the Mets were playing, I would not typically sit down and watch that game. But part of this does, in some way, speak to the kind of person that Jose Fernandez was, that they missed him so much. He's not just some guy. He was an ace for the team. And honestly, if you never got the chance to see him pitch, one of the better pitchers in the league. In fact, one of the best pitchers in the league. And he just wasn't going to get that Cy Young recognition because the Marlins are so awful. Even though, King Felix was able to get it in Seattle with a losing record before. Still, when your team is that bad, people are not going to look at you for the Cy Young. But he was pitching just as well as anybody in the league, Kershaw or anybody. Like, really, just as well, if not better, than anybody in the league. But then you add on top of that the guy himself was a lovable guy and a great character and a nice person. And you know all of the antics that you've seen with Jose Fernandez if you've been watching baseball. Just in the short time that he's been in baseball, he's had interaction with Kenta Maeda, who threw him a pitch, and the pitch surprised him, and he kind of gave him a little finger wag. You had the one where he pitched it, I don't remember to whom exactly, and the ball came back to him, and he caught it, and everybody was just surprised, like, did you really do that? And he just held the ball in his glove like, hey, man, I got it. You have all of these moments with him where you're just like, the guy loved baseball. You look at people who are fun to watch play sports, and the one thing that you notice the most is those people love to play the game. They're absolutely happy to play the game. That's the reason why Steph Curry got so popular, in my opinion, is that not only was Steph Curry playing at a very high level, doing something that we had not seen anybody ever do, he looked like he was having the time of his life doing it. I would say the same thing for Cam Newton. Cam Newton is doing things that nobody else can do, and that does play into his success. But also, Cam Newton looked like a kid out there playing a kid's game. He was just having fun. And Jose Fernandez is somebody who you will at least miss as a viewer of baseball, if you are a viewer of baseball, because he just looked like he was having fun out there. And I understand that baseball has all of their unwritten rules and all of that, where, okay, you can't rub it in people's face because no, he's dancing because he got a big out in the game. Or, you know, Jose Fernandez only had 2 home runs in his whole career, but he flipped the bat when he did it because the guy's having fun. The guy's out there playing the game. He knows he's playing a game, and he's just enjoying what he does. So you're watching all the players honor and respect this guy who they clearly missed from their locker room. And then you get to the part where it's absolutely tear-jerking, just core, if ever there was something. The first at-bat of the game was by D. Gordon, and D. Gordon, who, by the way, is not known for hitting home runs ever. That was his first homer of the season. D. Gordon is just not going yard all that often. He just isn't. And one thing that happened in the game was that he batted right-handed to honor Jose Fernandez, and then when he switched back, he hit a homer. First at-bat of the game. Now, Bartolo Colon was pitching, and Bartolo Colon, it was an 85-mile-per-hour fastball right over the middle of the plate. And maybe you can allow that to jade how you feel about that moment. But I actually think that makes that moment better because Bartolo Colon knew what was up. Bartolo Colon knew what the moment was and threw a pitch that D. Gordon could hit. Now, granted, you never see 85 miles per hour just floating over the plate like that. Never. So the fact that D. Gordon hit it out of the park anyway is still impressive because D. Gordon's not a guy that's going to hit things out of the park. I mean, there's a good chance that could have just caught him off guard and then he doesn't hit it out of the park. But D. Gordon knocks it out of the park. He's running around the bases. He's crying. Tears are streaming down his face as he runs around the bases. He gets home to home plate. His teammates embrace him. He continues crying. He's crying all the way into the dugout. And I'm looking at all of this and I'm going, man, I cannot do this. Like, I just watched the highlight and it made me feel deep down inside like I just wanted to bawl my eyes out. That's just the highlight. That's just the highlight. I didn't watch the game. I couldn't have watched the game. I could not have done it without crying my face off because sports can make me cry. Real life tragedy can make me cry. And here's the combination of the two things. I can't do it. So the Marlins have a game to honor the passing of Jose Fernandez, and it is absolutely as emotional as you thought it was going to be. And by the way, the impact of Jose Fernandez cannot be understated in the community in which he was in. He is a guy that came from Cuba at the age of 15 years old, and what he meant to the city of Miami and the amount of Cubans in that city, he represented them. He represented them in a way that nobody else can really represent anybody. It's sort of like being, the only way I can describe it is if somebody were from Chattanooga and then, I don't know, they played, I mean, there's still not a comparison. Like, it's not a great comparison, but if they were from Chattanooga and they played for the Mocs and we all knew them and they meant something for us and then they passed away, how distraught our entire city would be if that person was an absolute legend at what it was that they were doing. That it's kind of like that, except you have to add the element of culture and race. You have to add the fact that he was Cuban and that there are a large number of Cubans in Miami. You have to add that part onto the story, which to me makes it more special and makes him more special as a person. To be able to carry all of that on you, the pressure of your people, basically, and to go out there and still play and have fun and be yourself despite all of that pressure. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. This happened right before the show. Well, let me just tell you where you can find us really quickly on social media. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Search Hot News Talk Radio. Check us out on YouTube. We stream all of our local shows live, including this one. Make sure to keep up with us on Facebook. We are Hot News Talk Radio, your leader in local news, weather, traffic, and sports. Nobody does it better than us. We give you more football every weekend than any other station in this city. I absolutely guarantee it. So I'm driving home yesterday after this show, because I must not have gotten the news. I read the news and prep for my show before the show. And I don't know how it didn't come up in the news for me that Arnold Palmer passed away. And I'm driving home. And I look up at the billboard. And if you're driving down 153, if you've ever been on 153, the billboard is an electronic billboard. It changes often. And I like to look up there. They do a really cool thing where they've got the scores of games up there too. So, I mean, it's always a really cool thing to look at when you're driving by. And I look up and I see a picture of Arnold Palmer. The year of his birth and the year 2016. And I'm thinking to myself, Arnold Palmer is a golf legend. And I learned about the passing of Arnold Palmer from a billboard. From a billboard? I learned about the passing of Arnold Palmer from a billboard. That's going to stick with me for the rest of my life. I don't know how I feel about that. I learned about the passing of a golf great and a golf legend from a billboard. And to me, how is it? I mean, because you're looking at some of the great players in the history of golf, and you would have to have Arnold Palmer in your top three, if not at the very least your top five. He's up there somehow with Nicklaus and Hogan and Gary Player and I mean, you could bat around Tiger Woods in there. Your top five. He has to be in there. He absolutely has to be in there. And what it is that Arnold Palmer did, that the man, first off, is known as a drink. To a large number of people who are not fans of sports and of fans of golf specifically, Arnold Palmer is known as a drink, which is pretty crazy to me, in as much as My girlfriend does not know the name Arnold Palmer. At least for the longest time, she didn't know the name of Arnold Palmer, except that it was a drink. Arnold Palmer passes the girlfriend test. The girlfriend test being, if my girlfriend knows who you are in sports, you matter. And if she doesn't know who you are, you do not matter. And what is interesting to note, of course, as you know, is that Arnold Palmer hasn't played golf competitively. He hadn't played golf competitively in ages. I don't remember exactly when it was that he retired, but it had been ages. And people still remember the name of Arnold Palmer, people who do not even watch golf, nor do they care. Arnold Palmer was great with marketing. And we talk about guys who open up the roads for athletes in marketing. You've got to talk about what Magic Johnson and Larry Bird did, especially when it came to Converse and the shoe endorsement and all that. And then Michael Jordan comes along, takes it to the next level. But I think, and even an O.J. Simpson and what O.J. Simpson did, O.J. Simpson was a guy that you saw on TV. And I'm not saying this firsthand, by the way, because I'm 26 years old. I do not remember O.J. Simpson car commercials, like the Penske ads and all that. But O.J. Simpson, from what I understand, was a guy. You'd see him on TV and you'd go, yeah, I'd buy whatever it is that he buys. But I don't think Arnold Palmer gets quite the level of credit that he does for opening up for marketing in the sports world, because Arnold Palmer was a guy who would do advertising. And you could look at Arnold Palmer and go, yeah, I bet he uses that. Like, don't you see some athletes and you're like, there is no way on earth they use the product they are endorsing. Like, whenever I see an athlete use Beats by Dre, I believe that they use Beats by Dre. I have a lot of trouble believing that Peyton Manning uses like half the stuff that he advertises. Like, Peyton Manning is now a spokesperson for OtterBox, the company that makes phone cases so that if you drop your phone doesn't shatter into a million pieces, because most of our phones are made out of glass or screen. I have trouble imagining Peyton Manning using an OtterBox. Why does Peyton Manning need an OtterBox? I've seen Peyton Manning's house from a distance, to be clear. But Peyton Manning has a house in Chattanooga. I've seen his house. What does Peyton Manning need with an OtterBox? If Peyton Manning drops his phone, it's called getting a new phone. What on earth does Peyton Manning need with an OtterBox? I don't believe for 1 second that Peyton Manning uses an OtterBox. Not for 1 second. How much Papa John's do you think Peyton actually eats? I might say not that much. Like, Papa John's is good pizza. You know, I'm not knocking it. But really, I know that Peyton is also like part owner of a bunch of Papa John's, and I get that plays into him being in those commercials. But honestly, how much of that stuff do you think he actually uses? Because I don't think he uses very much. Arnold Palmer, you see Arnold Palmer is on a tractor or whatever. Arnold Palmer uses it. You believe it. And he actually did. And then that's something that we've kind of lost along the way. Like, I guess Steph Curry could use the Brita water filter that he advertises for, but why? Or you see a lot of guys endorsing shoes and then like they're playing basketball in the shoes that look nothing like the shoe that is designed for them because they wanted the, actually comfortable shoe. Or Steph Curry, the Steph Curry 3s, I think it was, that came out. The shoe looked like your dad's shoes. And the thing about your dad and his shoes is that your dad does not care what they look like. These shoes have to be white. These shoes have to be black. And that's all your dad cares about. Your dad doesn't care about the shape of the shoe, the style of the shoe. Your dad doesn't care about any of that stuff. Your dad just looks at the shoe and goes, okay, it's a shoe, and puts it on his foot. Because he's from a generation where shoes, you just wear them. Nobody's trying to buy a basketball shoe that looks like your dad's shoe. And Steph Curry's not trying to wear a shoe that looks like your dad's shoe, because when you look at Steph Curry on the court, Steph Curry's shoes do not look like your dad's shoes. So athletes don't necessarily use all of the stuff that they endorse. When Arnold Palmer did it, you completely believed it. You absolutely bought into the fact that he did that. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. Move on to the subject of drinking games. And I do this as a person who does not drink. I don't drink. But one of my favorite things to come up with are drinking games. Like if Butch Jones could already by himself inspire several drinking games. Like if you took a drink every time Butch Jones said certain individuals, and then you took 2 drinks when he said certain individuals stepped up, well, you destroy your liver, for one. But 2, you'd at least be entertained for the first 5 minutes before you destroyed your liver, before you developed cirrhosis of the liver for drinking way too much. So there was the debate was last night, and everybody's been waiting for this debate, looking forward to this debate. And there was a blog called Outkick the Coverage. Well, there is a blog called Outkick the Coverage, and they had drinking games for the debate. And all of these things, look, they're not necessarily on par with Butch Jones and individuals, because that is his favorite word. Butch Jones and individuals. Like Butch Jones is the king of coach speak. I'm going to try and do, this is what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to try and come up with a supercut of Butch Jones. And every time that he has said certain individuals this season, not overall, just this season when Butch Jones has said certain individuals. Because it to me blows my mind and rocks my world that a person could use that phrase that often. You have a team full of players. Pick a name. Pick a position group. Certain wide receivers stepped up. Nah, Butch Jones is going to hit you with that certain individuals over and over and over again. I don't know if any of these are on par with the Butch Jones and anytime he says certain individuals drinking game, because Butch Jones, I believe, once used the phrase certain individuals 3 times in 10 seconds. But these might be close. One was every time Donald Trump refers to the success of one of his businesses or his negotiating acumen, drink, which could kill you. Every time Hillary Clinton directly or indirectly calls Trump a bigot or a racist, or calls his supporters bigots or racists, drink. Which, by the way, comes with the follow-up of if Trump follows up this accusation by countering that Hillary is actually the racist because he loves minorities more than she does, and you take a second drink, you could also destroy your liver. In fact, it's mostly I like coming up with drinking games that destroy your liver. Like, what drinking game is completely broken? What drinking game, because it is so true, is completely unplayable? When Hillary references Trump's bankruptcies or refers to his business as unsuccessful, drink. When Donald Trump uses the word huge, he doesn't say huge. He doesn't pronounce the H. He swallows the H. Huge, like New Yorkers do. Drink. Every time Hillary Clinton mentions Barack Obama, or when Trump visibly reacts with a face of disbelief to something that Hillary says, or when either candidate calls the other a liar or accuses them of lying, or when Trump mentions Hillary's emails, building his wall, or Benghazi, or when Trump uses the word great, as in a make America great, make great deals, or describes himself in some manner, do that as well. And what you end up doing there, like if you did all of those things, you'd finally just reach the level that Butch Jones says certain individuals. I mean, I don't want to nitpick, but my gosh, if Butch Jones says certain individuals one more time, I'm going to ban the word. Like, I'm going to try and find a way to ban the word individuals from the dictionary. Can somebody get that man a thesaurus? You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to start the business, now that we're getting to the half point of the week, of previewing next week's football games tomorrow. Georgia and Tennessee is this week, should be a big one. Thank you for joining us. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And stick around. Alex Jones, next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News